doing, Bill?
Here we are, back in we're like a timeline of 2020, and today is just going to be another week in review for us. But I mean, I hope if you're a new viewer, you're ready for this, because just when you thought the Democrats couldn't jump the shark anymore, now they're going to impeach Bill Barr.
Unbelievable. So they could impeach him, but it's going to have to go to the Senate again, which will be
Sure.
thrown out. Same
This
thing.
is crazy. This
crazy.
is really like, if somebody asked me in 2019 what 2020 was going to be like, none of these things would be on the list. I honestly could never have predicted this.
No. I mean, we've been in a cold civil war for 4 or 5 years.
Yes. It's been tough. And I think because they were emboldened kind of by the media, so to speak, we'll talk about legacy media again, the Democrats have really found like a force to be reckoned with, because now they don't have to convict anyone in actual court. If you notice, like, none of these things have gone to an actual court. Like, even the impeachment, when it went to the Senate, they were like, where's the evidence? So, I mean, this is a court of public opinion, and they use this court of public opinion, which is, we know what that is, and they convict you on social media, and they convict you in the court of public opinion, but there's no charges. And even the charges that, like, I don't know if we're going to go into it tonight, but the charges on Manafort and the charges on, you know, these people, they're like process crimes and old crimes from like 5 years ago because he bought an apartment somewhere. I mean, this is reaching, and it just continues.
Right. Well, I mean, it will. I mean, again, the cold civil war started when Trump became president. It's been going on ever since. And now we're kind of going into a hot war. And we're going to talk about there in the show how violence is increasing.
Everywhere. And I think the protests kind of kicked it off, because even though, like, for me to speak on Philadelphia, the protests are so kind of gone, but the violence is kicked way off the charts. I mean, the shootings are up 30-40%. I mean, is it the problem the police have had the blue flu because they're kind of pissed about what's been going on with defunding the police? So, like, I know that they have less police to battle it now, but that's not really an excuse for the crime to just be rising. Like, the police are basically the guys that show up after the shooting and go, okay, what did you see? We're going to investigate. Like, the shootings that go on in the south side of Chicago, I mean, it rivals Iraq and Afghanistan. It's terrible. I mean, this is something that it's Democrat cities just run amok. And I think the more amok they run, the more it emboldens these weirdo Democrats thinking that they've done a good thing.
Right. Well, let's take a look at this video, how the country is being burnt down. Let's take a look. Yeah.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be.
If this country doesn't give us what we want, then we will burn down this system.
That is what the word radical really means. I've never been offended, and I embrace that term.
We need to completely dismantle the Minneapolis Police Department.
We are not answering 911 calls right now to the personnel issues.
Get down! You okay? You hit? You hit? She's hit? She's hit?
If this country doesn't give us what we want, then we will burn down this system and replace it.
We have an incredible opportunity to not just dig out of this crisis, but to fundamentally transform the country.
There it is. They're going to transform the country.
Yeah. I mean,
what, the socialists or communists? Are they going to transform?
I don't think they even know. Like, you know, we were talking a little bit pre-show, like, about different revolutions that went on throughout history. And I know me and you are both history buffs, and we pay attention to what goes on. And you look throughout history, and when there was a really well-constructed revolution, somebody had a plan for the aftermath. how you were gonna do things better and how you were gonna establish a government that was like for the people. And the funny thing is, this has lasted hundreds of years, this structure that we have. And because there are certain people that feel disenfranchised, they feel the need to just slash and burn without any replacement. So if you don't have enough, what do you want to call it, like balls to finish the job, okay, and go up against everybody who has power and establish your own new government, then you're just playing criminal. Because let's be honest, the founding fathers that put their lives on the line, that was treason when they did it, okay? But they were very intelligent people. They knew what they were in for, and they also had hundreds of guys that met and decided what they were going to do after. The Black Lives Matter and the Antifa people, they don't care what happens after. They just want to slash and burn. And there is no plan for recovery. So, like, what happens to the rest of the nation when they're done? They don't even know.
No, they don't. I mean, looking back at this video, I mean, there's police department in Atlanta, and they called out. You know,
yeah,
it's
called the Blue Flu. Yeah, it's got a name. It's called the Blue Flu.
Right.
And honestly, I think it's because of the conviction to those two guys. Every law enforcement officer that watched the video, as did I, saw those officers act in a very courteous manner. They gave that guy every opportunity, and well within the constraints of the law, they gave him the breathalyzer. He did the sobriety test. The entire thing went down as it should have. When it went awry was when the cop got punched in the face and his taser got stolen and the guy ran away. And instead of just running, he turned the fight. And that's when it went bad. So, I mean, for that prosecutor, that Georgia prosecutor, first of all, I don't even know if you want to talk about him, but that guy's been under fire for at least 6 months for everything from, sexual abuse, and he also has several campaign finance investigations against him. So basically, to me, it looked like on the outside he was trying to take the heat off of him. But anyway, across the board, the police issue is a huge deal. I know personally police officers that are like, I don't put this uniform on to go hunt black people. This is a ridiculous, stupid argument that I go out there and the calls come in. It's like a guy, he doesn't go in going, man, I hope the black neighborhood is really on fire so I can go in there and just start shooting. That's the last thing on his mind when he goes to work. Right. He's literally hoping for a regular night, just a quiet night, maybe a few things he has to do and not risk his life.
Maybe a couple of donuts and call it a day.
Seriously, that's what these guys want to do. Mm-hmm. They really want law and order. And they are the guys that are willing to jump the fence, so to speak, when the order goes down. So when somebody is shooting, who do you call? When somebody's punching and beating people, who do you call? So these people in Minnesota, I feel so bad for these taxpayers that have these idiots like Ilhan Omar and these stupid 21 to 23-year-olds who think they can live without police. This is absolute nonsense, and they're going to pay for it, and it's bad news.
It is bad news. I mean, we have videos of mayhem everywhere. I mean, take a look at this. This is where Richmond, Virginia, where they're moving in to protecting the statue. Take a look.
Right. Just trying to save one monument.
I mean, it's total craziness.
It really is. And, like I said, just because I have personal connection to some law enforcement people, when you go into work, imagine if your boss said to you, hey, there's only 35 of us on tonight. we're probably going to face 3,000 people, and it's just you guys, and you're not allowed to shoot them, and you're also not allowed to tase them anymore.
And they're going to shoot back at you.
Yes. So if you guys are still willing to go and do your job, like, this is it. Like, a lot of people would just go home. I mean, these guys that are doing this job, that are willing to put, and not only now, we're coming into summer, it's 90-something degrees. I know for a fact from personal experience, you put on a gas mask or a chemical mask, you are going to sweat your cojones off, man. It is terrible. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to do that job, and nobody wants to be that guy that protects a monument that stood for 200 years of guys like Thomas Jefferson, who now all of a sudden is under fire, even though he penned the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. Yes, he did own slaves, but, the equivalency of the time period, it's something that he knew he couldn't himself get out from under, but he made the path for others too. So there's a lot in that situation. There's a lot of people, like, I had a guy today talk to me about, when he struggled with addiction, okay? He knew that he was struggling with addiction. He didn't want his child to be exposed to it. So he did everything in his power to beat his addiction before he exposed his child to it. So if you correlate all of that to, like, something like slavery, something that's like everywhere, okay? So slavery was everywhere at that time period. It was like you went down to the docks, you bought your rum, you bought your firearms, and let me pick up a couple of slaves too. Yes, that was what was happening in America. That was history. So that was real. Not saying it was right, but it was real. And the problem is that those guys that lived, they also did things to make changes to get us to where we are right now. We wouldn't be here without those guys. So theoretically, the guys that they're tearing down are the guys that made the change, because it would have been real easy to just look the other way and never do anything. It would have been real easy, but those guys did not.
Lincoln, they want to tear down Abraham Lincoln.
They want to tear down Abraham Lincoln. They want to tear down Grant. Ulysses S. Grant was one of the guys that he fought against. Yes.
I mean, it's
crazy.
Yeah.
It now to the point of historical figures. They don't want anything to do with history because, like I said, me and you are history buffs. When you really dive into the history, you start to peel back the layers, and it's not as cut and dry as everyone thinks it should have been. It really was a situation where there were people involved that didn't necessarily agree with what was going on, but it takes way more than one or two people to make the difference. When you have an establishment of something like that, it takes tens of years to make it happen. Like in Congress, it takes them 10 years to figure out how to fix a road. I mean, this is not something that they could do with the snap of a finger. So these people that they're willing to tear down now, I know it started with the Confederate generals, but it is now everyone historic. It doesn't matter who or where they sat, whether they were on the right side or wrong side. If they were alive in the 1800s and below, they're getting torn down.
Yeah, somebody needs to go back to history class because they don't have no idea what they're doing.
They don't teach these guys history, and if they do, it's a weird version of history. Right. 300,000 white and black soldiers died from the North trying to free the South. So it's like they take anything that's Civil War related and they just take it and they're just like, it's bad. Well, if the Civil War didn't happen, who knows where we would be? Yeah. So this is the nonsense that we're facing. We're facing a generation of people that don't want to embrace that there were mistakes made, and they want to just pave the way for, they have no idea. They don't even have a plan. It's terrible.
Well, let's take a look about some violence that we talked about. So let's take a look about this guy. He was shooting inside a car. It's been slowed down. Let's take a look at that.
Yeah.
This guy has a gun there. Shoots in the car. Black Lives Matter guy.
Yep.
Protesting. They don't care. They don't care who they shoot.
And see, that's the thing. It's not peaceful protest when you engage in stuff like that. And I really, if I were to rate on a scale of 1 to 10 the amount of peaceful protest, it's like a 2. All these protests turn violent and they turn terrible. And I don't know if it's the lack of intellect that's in those crowds, because if you watch some of the movements that have happened throughout history, there were intellectuals that were involved. I don't see a lot of intellectuals. I see a lot of radicals. Right. It's more radicals than intellectuals. And normally it's a balance. Okay. Like, you know, it's funny to hear the Marxist base to Black Lives Matter. I actually saw that today, that the people that founded Black Lives Matter are trained Marxists. Well, Karl Marx was a racist. And he hated black people. And he thought they were, yeah, he did. He actually used the N-word almost all the time. Right. So here's the thing. These people don't know history. It's very clear now that they don't know what Karl Marx was actually about. They know that Karl Marx was like an eat the rich type guy, and they agree with that because that's the easy button. What do? You take a stance from, wow, that guy's successful. He made it in life. He's got a 7-figure bank account and a nice house. If I take his stuff, I'm doing pretty good. Right. And all I have to do is eliminate that guy. Right. Well, what happens when you run out of that guy? You know what I mean? So, like, that's the Marxist failure. And Marxism has always failed because you eventually run out of earners when you have an environment that eats the rich. You can't do it. It doesn't make sense. The rich are there, honestly, in my opinion, the rich are there to be the pinnacle. Like, do you want to get there? Do you want to be successful? The middle class is like where you're saying, okay, I'm here. At least I'm not, you know, hand to mouth. Okay. So there is a structure to what we have. And it's not like a caste system like they have in the rest of the world where, you were born into that class. You could never work at Merrill Lynch. Right. We don't have that in America. In America, you could get a job at Merrill Lynch if you could toe the line and do the work. Right. It's just that simple. Like
it's all about working hard. So if you work hard, you can move up.
Yes. And another argument that I heard today that, you know, I know I'm rambling on, but, you know, white privilege has come up a lot. It is like the new original sin. Okay, so Black Lives Matter has established itself as like a religion at this point. It's like a secular humanist religion. And you have to bow the knee and you have to say, oh my God, you're right, I was born white. Oh, give me my original sin. I can never wash it off. It's just there forever. No matter what I do, I owe you. You know, and that's this guy Cohen. This guy Cohen who wants to impeach Barr. I know we have a video about him. He's like a reparations guy. He's like a, you know, oh, I'm sorry for being white. He's that guy. Because you know why? That's electable. And there are people out there that see a niche and they say, oh, if I just be that character, I could be elected and I could play that role forever because that job pays $175,000 plus all the lobbyist money I can gobble up. So I'm going to take that job because guess what? There are people that are going to give me money to say what they want to say. I mean, it's just that simple.
It is. I mean, everybody does. I mean, this other day, I mean, the Black Lives Matter went to the mayor's house. We had the couple outside waving the guns.
Yeah.
You know, so the same thing. I mean, they want to tear down the rich. I mean,
right.
Here it is right here. Let's take a look at it.
All right.
This was a private sidewalk, by the way. They broke into a gate.
Yeah, that's a private property.
Of course, we have a special video of that you can watch.
Yeah, yes, we do. Yes, we do. He's the Suburban Commando.
That's right.
But honestly, I give that guy a lot of kudos because there was a point where he was outnumbered 30 to 35 to 1. And that is the point where you bring out and actually, like, because I know a little bit about firearms, that's not an AR-15. That's a fully auto M16. He has a stamp for that. That stock on there, that carry handle, the gas tube. I did the work in my head. That's a full auto M16, probably pre-war. It's probably a relic. So anybody who doesn't know about ATF regulations, since that gun was made in like 1963, it's technically a relic. You can buy that. It's a fully automatic relic that you can own, you know, with like any
like
you know, it's an antique. Right, but that's an ass-kicking antique that he brought out. So that was a full auto M16. So those guys that were like, oh, he's got an AR. No, that was another level. That was a fully automatic weapon that he brought out. Now Missouri, because I'm a gun guy, also has the Castle Doctrine. Missouri, you are allowed to use lethal force when you feel threatened on your personal property. And it's completely justified. He was outnumbered 35-1. He could have shot all of those people in Missouri and probably went to court, but beat it.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, good that he didn't shoot anybody, but yeah,
right.
he had the right to go out there and do that.
He absolutely did. They're saying that, oh, this guy brandished a weapon, he should go to jail. Actually, the opposite is true. All those people were criminal trespassers. They actually did damage his property. I saw the footage after. They damaged his gate. They damaged his bushes. They kicked his sprinkler heads that he had. I don't care if they're only like $50. They kicked them all over and snapped them. Guess what? That's criminal trespass. They destroyed his property. Right. The guy was well within his rights to do all of that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And it wasn't even about, like he said, he actually said in an interview, it was probably 50-50 or maybe even more white people. It didn't matter who they were. It's a fact that they were on my property, and there was a lot of them. And that's when he felt threatened, and rightfully so. I mean, people down this guy. Oh, that house, he refurbished that house for like $11 million. Okay. Agreed. That's great. The guy has $11 million to put into a house. It's an amazing house. That's why people couldn't believe it was private property, because it's so well manicured and everything looks beautiful. Guess what? If those two lawyers want to live that lifestyle, God bless them. That's America. But you're not allowed to protest on their property. You could stand down the road at the corner, but that's it. You're not allowed where they were. And he was well within his rights to do that.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree. So we're going to go on a little break here, and I'll be back. Our next segment, we're going to talk about the impeachment of Barr. What that entails.
Yeah.
So here we go.
All right. It's a big world out there. There's a lot to take in. Seems like there's something going on new and tragic and terrible. You feel like you're on this
Do you experience ongoing severe depression, headaches, long bouts of uncontrollable crying? Have you tried therapy? You may suffer from TDS. Trump derangement syndrome is a serious illness that attacks the central nervous system. It can lead to public embarrassment, extreme rage, sometimes even violence. TDS is made worse by consuming fake news media from corporations such as NPR and CNN. But you're not alone. TDS affects over half of Democrats and nearly 99% of leftists. Doctors are beginning to understand the illness. TDS interferes with the areas of the brain that are responsible for rational thinking and that regulate appropriate emotional responses. With this knowledge, scientists have innovated a new treatment for TDS. Introducing Trump Zolta. Trump Zolta is the only known treatment for TDS. If others have mentioned that you may have TDS, you can speak with your doctor to see if Trumpzalta is right for you. Become you again. Trumpzalta is not right for everyone. Some common side effects are hallucinations, clinical insanity, stomach cramps, and rapid onset explosive diarrhea. Ask your doctor about Trumpzalta.
There we go. We're sponsored by Trumpzalta. Thanks for watching.
Yes. I hope it helps anyone with TDS who loses sleep at night over the fact that we have Trump as president.
Yes. All right, let's talk about Bill Barr and the impeachment. What is going on?
Man, it is like, this is the new thing. Like impeachment used to be the ultimate, like, I don't want to have to use this. This is the ultimate government, like, I want to say, like, firearm, so to speak. Like, this is something last resort. The Democrats are now like, hey, what's this thing do? Pow, 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 pow. They are using impeachment as if it means nothing. And they're using impeachment in a way where they don't have the evidence, where if you look at every other congressional body that went through, like, for example, we'll take the Nixon impeachment, right? They basically had so much evidence that they actually went to Nixon, and which Watergate makes Obamagate look like a tiny little fraction. I'm going to go there, but as I'm talking about Nixon, they went to Nixon and they said to him, as Republicans, they said, the evidence is overwhelming. Please don't embarrass the country, right? So literally, they didn't want to do it. They wanted to make it appear as though the structure of power was functional. I think the Democrats are coming from a different angle. They want to make it appear as we're in some type of banana republic where you impeach people based on, I don't like that guy. I don't like what he's doing, whether he breaks laws or doesn't do his job or not. And that's where we are with Bill Barr. I mean, with Trump, we saw how it didn't work. They didn't have the sufficient evidence. Obviously, it was a stupid idea. Instead of, they impeached over a phone call that they had 15 minutes of evidence for, and they drug it out over, I don't even know how many months. But anyway, to get back to the point of Bill Barr. Bill Barr is pretty savvy in the world of the rule of law. To go up against Bill Barr, I think these Democrats, they don't really know what they're in for. I think they are going to find out because the Durham report is going to come out. And I think they're trying to meet this intersection, okay? They're trying to intersection where the Durham report comes out, and then all of a sudden Barr's being impeached, and all of a sudden the Durham report has less value. And that's not the case, because they're doing that on many levels. And, you know, not to go off on a tangent, they're also trying to do it with the election. If you really pay attention with the mail-in ballots and all this stuff about, you know, there's already been tampering. There was a county in New Jersey. They threw out 25% of the votes because the dumbasses that put the proxy votes in rubber banded them together in a 50-block chunk and put them in a mailbox. Okay, so the mailman was like, that's weird. Like, and then he looked at the addresses and said, man, these people are like 3 towns away. Like, why would you bundle these? So he sends it to an investigator, and then the signatures don't match. So mail-in voting. And while I'm on that, the mail-in voting, it works both ways for them. You got to understand this. If Trump wins, and he wins by a fraction of a vote, let's say, a fraction, then they say, oh, Trump committed mail-in voter fraud. Let's investigate. Now, if Biden wins, then Trump's team goes, well, let's investigate the mail-in fraud. So, I mean, this is just to make the election, the upcoming election, look as if it's not legitimate. That's what this is about. And Barr is part of that role, because if Durham comes out and indicts all of these people, Trump's a shoo-in, because everything he said was fact. Everything he said about the investigation into his campaign was fact. Everything he said about Peter Strzok and Comey was also fact. And then all of a sudden it's like, here I am, let's rebuild the economy. And he gets elected. So they need this BS crap. And this guy, this guy Cohen is the perfect pansy to pull it off.
All right, let's take a look at this video.
No, he's an idiot.
Been experiencing a very unusual pattern of behavior by the Attorney General of the United States. Behavior that has scared many and should scare all. For he has abused his power, he's obstructed justice, and he's violated the First Amendment. He's destroyed almost every norm that existed for attorney generals in their relationship to the rule of law. The rule of law that makes America stand out as a beacon on the hill to nations all over the world. No longer. For the rule of law has been been diminished by his actions with Michael Flynn, a person who pled guilty twice, admitted to lying, and yet he wanted to withdraw the prosecution. And the same for the change in the plea agreement for Roger Stone and the recommendation. He violated the First Amendment at Lafayette Park when he cleared the park for a photo op for the president. He abused his power on the Mueller report when he misled the people in what the Mueller report really said. For those reasons and others, I've been joined by 35 of my colleagues today in introducing a resolution calling for the impeachment of William Barr and calling on the Judiciary Committee to look into it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back the balance of my time.
There he is.
Unbelievable, man. He is the guy. Like I said, I was just looking. These guys in that district, okay? There's a district in Tennessee where they don't even run opposed. It just goes Democrat to Democrat to Democrat to Democrat. So like a Republican has never even challenged these people in this district. So what happens when you have a guy like Cohen, a white guy? So he goes in and he runs based on, oh my God, we are just terrible. And I'm going to do everything I can to get you everything you deserve. And he goes in there and he literally postures and does all of the things. Oh, you need reparations and all of the things that everybody wants to hear. Now, is he a lot different from the other politicians? Not really. But this is the point, is that they needed like a guy, like a fall guy. Cohen's the perfect fall guy to do this because he hasn't passed anything worth a hill of bull crap in his tenure like that he's been there. So it doesn't matter if this fails. But in his district, he's not even contested. Okay, so if a guy who wrote this article of investigation for impeachment was in a contested district, he would not get elected. They picked this guy for this purpose because no matter what happens, he keeps his seat, because this election is a huge deal. Like, we technically, when I say we, I say conservatives. And when I say conservatives, I hope it's Republicans, because actually a lot of Republicans have shown their true colors. And I hope if you're in your state and you're paying attention, these guys, these swamp creatures, you don't have to reelect this guy. There's going to be a guy who's also probably conservative running against them. You don't have to elect the incumbent. Okay, this is the other part that Republicans fall victim to. They think, oh my God, I can't vote Democrat. Well, yes, that's true, because you know what you get with those guys. But you don't have to vote incumbent. Sometimes you get another guy in there, and it's just fresh blood. So don't be afraid if you're out there. And I should name all the states. I had them on the top of my head, but if I misname one, I look like an idiot. But there are about 11 states that have incumbents running that are definitely swamp creatures. If you do the research, you can elect a new young Republican. Don't be scared, because when a new young Republican comes in, I'll be honest with you, he's about the constituency. He comes in, he stays in his office, he reads the emails, he literally goes out and canvasses. Okay, these guys that are 10, 20 years in, they don't go to their office anymore. Let's be honest with ourselves. I know I am. You know, I live in the state of Pennsylvania, and I've watched these incumbents literally get so comfortable in their spot that they know that they're going to get reelected because of the R. But I love the fact that there are some contested seats. They're still Republicans, but they're younger guys, and they understand that they need to serve the public. Sometimes you need fresh blood. And it's okay. You don't have to always vote the incumbent. That's my point. you can vote Republican without putting the incumbent back.
Yeah.
And do your research, because some of these guys are swamp creatures. They really are embedded in the swamp. I've seen it. I've watched the votes. I go to congress.gov, and you can see how these guys vote. It's like there's a bill posted, and you're like, oh, that'll never make it. No Republican's going to vote for that. That's a pro-abortion, anti-school choice, like whatever. And then you see the names, and you're like, holy crap. And then you start Googling, you go down the rabbit hole, and you find out that these guys have been elected for 20 years and they don't care anymore. You need to get them out and put fresh blood in.
Well, speaking of swamp creatures, I mean, Washington, the House has voted at the Washington, D.C. to become a state.
Yes, and they did that by proxy vote. I don't even know. Oh, my God, that's a whole nother thing I've been researching. So they're not in session right now. Okay, so the Democrats, the Republicans, the whole House is not in session right now. So now anything that comes up is done by proxy vote. Well, that's like giving your vote to the Speaker of the House. Mm-hmm. That's literally now all of a sudden, if you're in a state, and I don't care if you're a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat, and I doubt dyed-in-the-wool Democrats watch us, but if you are, I love you too. Here's the thing: those guys that you elected aren't voting for you. They just handed their vote to Nancy Pelosi, who voted proxy vote. Okay, that's how that works. When they're not in session, it's like phoning it in. It's like, yeah, I can't make it to work today. My golfer, my caddy has coronavirus, so I can't come into work. I mean, this is literally what's happening. So all of these things that they're touting as like, we're doing work, we're working, it's all proxy vote. So the whole 51st state thing, that's a repeal of the 23rd Amendment. It's never going to fly. It's going to hit the Senate and get laughed at. I hope. Honestly, I hope, because it's nonsense.
Well, until after an election, it might not be laughed at if they turn Democrat.
Well, after an election, that's the thing. If it makes it to the Senate before the election, I don't think it's going anywhere.
It's not.
What it essentially does is it repeals the 23rd election, the 23rd Amendment, and takes away the electoral votes of the District of Columbia. Why they're worried about 3 votes is beyond me. But the fact that they're starting to worry, it actually makes me happy.
Yeah.
And the fact that, and I know I'm weird, I am the guy that's not upset about the censorship. The censorship to me speaks volumes about what we're saying, what the Bill Mason show is saying, and what every other conservative outlet is saying. They're in fear. It's pure fear. They're scared of what I'm saying because it makes sense. Because you give me 5 minutes and I will make sense to you. The liberal media and the leftists, they don't make any sense. Their only stance is, hey, we're not Trump. Okay, well, what do you got for me? Well, we're not Trump. I mean, how far does that go? And it speaks volumes that they have Joe Biden. Joe Biden is literally propped up like, he's our guy. And it's like, this guy doesn't even know what day it is. No. So this is the craziest part of history, and we're living it. And I say, you know what? Embrace it, because you're going to tell your grandkids about this time period, and they're not going to believe you. Because we're going to get through this. I believe we're going to get through this as a country, and we are going to get things back to the way it was. Because the pendulum swings, chaos leads to order. Okay? And we will get order back. Right now, the chaos is here. We're watching it. But it's going to get back to order, and then the chaos, and it's how society's been forever, you know?
Yeah. I mean, we were censored last week, so YouTube took down a couple of videos. Twice, yeah. So, we are trying to get the word out, so hopefully you keep watching, and make sure you subscribe. Bill, I know you've been talking, but do you have any last words?
Last words? Actually, I have a few. Okay, so because I'm a gun guy, I just want to bring everybody into the fray of what's going on in the gun legislation world. So, background checks for ammunition. If you've noticed, when you go to the store, wherever you may or may not buy your ammunition, there's not much on the shelves. 2 reasons for that. 1, government contract to procure ammunition because of the record gun sales in the month of May. They haven't even compiled June, and I'm pretty sure June's off the chart too. So that's number one. Number two is they want to do in 16 states, okay? And you could probably figure out who they are. I could name them. It's going to be New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, California, Oregon, Washington, Maryland. Anyway, they're basically the blue states. They want you to do a background check to be able to buy more than one box of ammunition. And I know, because I like to go to the range, you always buy at least 5 boxes of ammunition because you don't want to sit there and not have anything to do. So anyway, so now you do a background check, and this is what they say to you, because now this is not federal anymore, this is state. Oh, the state police are backed up. Sorry, sir, you can't buy ammunition today. You're going to have to come back tomorrow. So if it's your day off and you plan to go to the range and shoot, you can't. And that's their objective, and they've done it.
Wow. All right. Well, thanks, Bill. Thanks for the last word there. And again, make sure you subscribe, and you have a wonderful evening.
Good night.